Every day, we see the darker side of the world around us. We witness how people can hurt others in ways that are hard to understand. It's a sad part of life, but it's something we can't ignore. As someone who dives into the world of crime, I'm here to share the most shocking stories and try to understand what drives people to do such things. I'm Michael, and today, I've got another unreal true crime story for you. It was a crisp November morning in a quiet Atlanta suburb, the kind of day where life unfolds with predictable routines. Rusty Snyderman had just dropped off his young son at preschool, a mundane task in the backdrop of his seemingly perfect life. As he walked back to his car, the stillness of the parking lot was shattered by a series of gunshots. Within moments, Rusty lay bleeding on the pavement, and his assailant vanished as calmly as they had appeared. The brutal attack shocked the peaceful community, but what followed was even more unsettling. Questions swirled. Who would want to harm this devoted father and husband? What motive could drive such a cold-blooded act in broad daylight? The answers, as investigators would discover, were far from simple, leading to a tangled web of betrayal, obsession, and chilling revelations. Rusty Snyderman was born on June 24, 1974. He grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, alongside his younger brother Steve, in a warm and loving family. From a young age, he was affectionately nicknamed Rusty, a name that stuck with him throughout his life, among family, friends, and colleagues. After graduating high school, Rusty pursued a degree in business administration at Indiana University, earning his bachelor's degree. During the late 1990s, while in college, he met Andrea, a fellow student from Sylvania, Ohio, studying accounting. Sharing classes and forming a strong connection, their relationship flourished, leading to their marriage on December 30, 2000. Rusty later continued his education, earning an MBA from Harvard Business School in 2002. Following graduation, he embarked on a career in relationship management and later transitioned to working in wealth management, specializing in life insurance for families. Eventually, he rose to the position of chief financial officer at a prominent corporation in Atlanta. The couple's financial acumen allowed them to build a stable life together. They purchased a beautiful home in Tanglewood, a peaceful suburb north of Atlanta, and even owned a vacation house. Their family grew with the birth of their daughter, Sophia, in 2006, and their son, Ian, in 2008. When the 2008 recession impacted their careers, the couple faced challenges, but Andrea secured a position as a quality systems manager in 2010, providing stability. This gave Rusty the opportunity to chase a longtime dream. He launched Star Voice Me, a service that sent custom, celebrity voice messages, a venture that reflected his creative and entrepreneurial spirit. Rusty and Andrea were beloved in their community, known for their kindness, hard work, and active participation in the local Jewish community and charitable causes. Rusty was especially admired as a devoted husband and father. Their life seemed perfect, filled with love, dreams, and a sense of security, until November 18, 2010. That morning began like any other. Andrea dropped off Sophia at kindergarten before heading to work, while Rusty took Ian to preschool, located in a shopping center. After walking Ian inside, Rusty returned to his car. Around 9 a.m., a man approached him in the parking lot and, without saying a word, shot him multiple times at close range. The attacker calmly walked away and fled in a silver minivan, leaving Rusty gravely injured. Despite the efforts of a pediatrician who happened to be nearby and administered CPR, Rusty succumbed to his injuries shortly after being rushed to the hospital. The 36-year-old's death shocked the community. The murder, committed in broad daylight with witnesses present, was both surreal and horrifying. Eyewitnesses described the suspect as wearing a hoodie, a ski mask, and a suspiciously fake-looking dark beard. One witness, Chris Lang, noted how unsettlingly calm the attacker was, walking away as if nothing had happened. Another parent, who had seen the man earlier that morning, recalled his unusual appearance and contacted authorities with a description, which led to a police sketch. During the crime scene investigation, 4 shell casings from a handgun were recovered, along with surveillance footage from the parking lot. These materials were sent to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation for analysis. The murder quickly captured public attention, fueled by the shocking circumstances and the mystery surrounding why anyone would target Rusty Snyderman, a businessman and devoted family man. When Andrea learned about her husband's death, she was consumed by grief and confusion. She couldn't understand why someone would harm such a kind and loving person. Rusty's younger brother Steve struggled to process the loss of his lifelong best friend, lamenting how Rusty still had so much to offer the world. Rusty's parents were devastated by the senseless act and the intense media coverage that followed, which only added to their anguish. The brutality of the crime sparked speculation about the motive, with many believing Rusty was specifically targeted. Some even suggested it was the work of a professional killer. The day after the murder, detectives visited the Snyderman home to interview Andrea about Rusty's personal and professional life. They asked if there were financial troubles, marital issues, or anyone who might have wanted to harm him. Armed with a search warrant, investigators seized several items, including Rusty's work computer, to trace his contacts and activities. 3 main theories emerged early on. Given Rusty's religion, detectives considered the possibility of an anti-Semitic hate crime. Another angle suggested an affair or a business deal gone wrong. To uncover the truth, they needed to investigate Rusty's inner circle thoroughly. Meanwhile, police released a composite sketch of the suspect, based on eyewitness descriptions. The sketch was widely circulated through media outlets, and the Snyderman family offered a $10,000 reward for tips. Then, an unsettling detail came to light. Rusty had made 2 911 calls in the weeks leading up to his death. The first call, placed a month before the murder, occurred when Rusty and Andrea noticed someone driving slowly past their home. The second, made on November 10th, just a week before the shooting, was even more alarming. Rusty had stepped outside in the middle of the night after detecting a strong gasoline odor. He discovered a suspicious figure sleeping in his backyard. In the 911 call, Rusty reported that the person fled but appeared to have a gun in their back pocket. Witnesses later described the individual as wearing a hat, earmuffs, and a dark coat. As investigators delved deeper, they uncovered conflicts in Rusty's past. At one point, he had resigned as CFO of a children's learning center franchise after discovering questionable financial practices. While this provided a potential motive, the company owners were eventually ruled out due to solid alibis. In a follow-up interview, detectives questioned Andrea about whether anyone had shown romantic interest in her or if she had been involved in any extramarital relationships. Andrea admitted that during a business trip, her boss had made an advance toward her, which she immediately rejected. Though her response seemed sincere, it left investigators with lingering doubts. A week after the murder, detectives reviewed the surveillance footage from the parking lot. They identified the getaway vehicle as a 2011 silver Kia Sedona minivan with Enterprise rental decals on the windshield. The minivan had been rented the day before the crime and returned just hours after Rusty was killed. Forensic analysis of the vehicle revealed fibers matching a fake beard and other potential evidence. When the rental records were traced, the name of the renter shocked everyone: Hemi Newman. Born in 1962, Jimmy was a corporate scientist, married to Ariella Barconi, an elementary school teacher and the father of several children. The discovery sent shockwaves through the investigation, leaving detectives scrambling to connect the dots. The investigation took a shocking turn when detectives discovered that Hemi Newman, a man with an outwardly normal life, was Andrea's direct supervisor at work. This revelation, combined with Andrea's earlier mention of unwanted advances and the link to the rented minivan, was enough for police to name Hemi as a suspect. When questioned, he claimed he had been at work all day on the day of the shooting. However, surveillance footage from his workplace contradicted his alibi, showing him leaving the building in the silver minivan. During the interrogation, he admitted being friends with Andrea and confessed to having romantic feelings for her. Yet, when asked directly if he was responsible for Rusty's death, he neither confirmed nor denied it. The investigation narrowed its focus on Hemi, with jealousy and unrequited love emerging as the potential motive. While the case against him was building, police still needed the murder weapon. Hemi's phone records led detectives to a firearms dealer where they learned that he had purchased a handgun on October 31st, just weeks before the crime. A spent shell casing provided by the dealer matched the casings recovered from the crime scene. This evidence led to Hemi's formal arrest in January 2011. Over a year later, in February 2012, Hemi's trial began. His defense team shocked the court by arguing that Hemi had acted under the influence of mental illness. According to his lawyers, his obsession with Andrea had driven him to commit the crime. They claimed he was mentally unwell, incapable of rational thought, and manipulated by his feelings for Andrea. The prosecution painted a very different picture, describing Hemi as a calculating liar who faked mental illness to justify his actions. They alleged that he had planned Rusty's murder to eliminate him and pursue a relationship with Andrea. Prosecutors also revealed the existence of a $2 million life insurance policy, which they claimed Hemi wanted to access through Andrea. When Hemi took the stand, his testimony left the courtroom stunned. He admitted to planning the murder and acknowledged being near the Snyderman home in the days before the shooting. However, he argued that he was not in his right mind, citing a troubled childhood filled with abuse as a root cause. Hemi claimed that during the summer of 2010, he began hearing a deep, commanding voice, which he described as similar to Barry White's, instructing him that Rusty needed to be removed. He also claimed to have seen an angel, whose voice reminded him of actress Olivia Newton-John, affirming the same message. He further testified that he believed Ian and Sophia were his children and that he was protecting them from Rusty. He claimed that Andrea had kissed him during a business trip and that they had watched movies together in a hotel room, though he denied they had a physical relationship. His delusions, he said, convinced him he was saving the children from harm and fulfilling a paternal role. A defense psychologist testified that Hemi had suffered from undiagnosed bipolar disorder with psychosis since adolescence. She also diagnosed him with erotomania, a condition where individuals falsely believe they are in a romantic relationship with someone. This delusion, coupled with his traumatic childhood experiences, led Hemi to believe he was rescuing the children from a perceived threat. According to the psychologist, Hemi's distorted reality drove him to act violently. The psychologist also claimed that Hemi believed Andrea was manipulating him, playing a push-and-pull game where she alternated between encouraging his feelings and rejecting him. Hemi's defense team argued that these factors rendered him legally insane at the time of the crime. Andrea was called to the stand, where she denied under oath any romantic relationship with Hemi. She stated that she had consistently discouraged his advances and firmly refuted claims of manipulation. Her testimony aimed to dismantle Hemi's narrative and highlight his obsession as unreciprocated and entirely fabricated. The evidence presented during the investigation painted a different picture than Andrea's claims. A witness came forward stating they had seen Andrea and Hemi together at a restaurant, observing what they described as clear romantic tension between the two. Furthermore, phone records showed constant interaction between Andrea and Hemi. On the day of Rusty's murder, Andrea called Hemi multiple times, including while on her way to the hospital. She claimed the calls were to inform him she had left work due to an emergency with her husband. However, the most incriminating evidence was two phone calls she made to Hemi on the same day Rusty reported a suspicious person near their home to 911. One call occurred an hour before Rusty's alert, and another just 30 minutes after. The investigation revealed that Andrea and Hemi had taken several business trips together in the weeks leading up to the crime. These trips included visits to Florida, Virginia, Nevada, Colorado, South Carolina, and even England. Witnesses reported that their interactions on these trips were far from professional, with some saying it was during a Virginia trip that Hemi confessed his feelings for Andrea. From that point onward, their relationship allegedly became more intimate. Andrea denied having an affair with Hemi and any involvement in Rusty's murder. However, her testimony was perceived by some as cold and calculating, casting doubts on her credibility with the jury. Both the defense and prosecution attempted to tie Andrea to the crime, even though she wasn't the one on trial. The prosecution argued that while Andrea may not have orchestrated the murder, she had pushed Hemi to the breaking point. Meanwhile, the defense claimed that Andrea's influence over Hemi was so significant that she could have been complicit in the crime. In March 2012, Hemi was convicted of Rusty's murder, though he was declared mentally ill. He received a life sentence without parole, along with an additional 5 years for illegal possession of a firearm. As the trial details emerged, public scrutiny of Andrea intensified. The revelations fractured the tight-knit Jewish community in Atlanta, with some of Andrea's former friends openly condemning her. Even Andrea's legal team faced backlash, with community members reportedly petitioning a school to expel the children of one of her lawyers. Rusty's parents were devastated by their son's death and the subsequent accusations against Andrea. They attended every day of Hemi's trial, seeking answers and justice. However, they began to suspect Andrea's involvement after receiving a cryptic apology call from her. They believed Andrea knew more about Hemi's intentions than she initially admitted and had lied during the investigation. In May 2012, following the trial, Rusty's parents filed for visitation rights, claiming Andrea had progressively cut off their contact with their grandchildren. They later sought emergency custody, alleging that Andrea's family had helped cover up her affair with Hemi. Rusty's parents felt betrayed as more evidence emerged, suggesting Andrea's deeper involvement in the tragedy that took their son's life. On August 2, 2012, Andrea was charged with conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, perjury, and obstruction of justice. She was arrested and placed under house arrest while awaiting trial. However, a year later, just before the trial began, prosecutors dropped the murder charge due to insufficient evidence. They maintained that Andrea had lied about her relationship with Hemi, which, they argued, had hindered the investigation. The prosecution sought a 20-year sentence. Andrea's defense team denied the existence of any romantic relationship and argued that the police had compromised the investigation by focusing on her instead of Hemi, whom she had pointed to from the start. Despite the dropped murder charge, Andrea's role in the events surrounding Rusty's death left lingering questions and shattered trust among those who once supported her. Andrea, who had legally changed her last name by the time of her trial, denied any involvement in her husband Rusty's murder. She testified that she had always viewed Hemi as a mentor and that their friendship had developed naturally. Andrea admitted during cross-examination that, in hindsight, her actions were questionable and deeply regrettable. She expressed remorse for not telling her husband about Hemi's advances, for failing to leave her job, and for not filing a formal complaint with Human Resources. Andrea acknowledged that she had shared personal feelings with Hemi but vehemently denied any romantic or sexual relationship. Through tears, Andrea described Hemi as a predator and expressed deep regret for allowing him into her life. She pleaded for leniency, emphasizing that her children had already lost their father and did not deserve to lose their mother as well. Friends of Andrea testified on her behalf, describing her as a devoted mother and urging the court to consider the impact on her children. At the trial's conclusion, Andrea was found guilty of 9 out of 13 charges, including obstructing the apprehension of a criminal, concealing material facts, 3 counts of false statements, and 4 counts of perjury. She was sentenced to 5 years in prison, with credit for time served under house arrest and pretrial detention, reducing her prison term to approximately 4 years. In December 2013, Rusty's parents and his brother Steve filed a civil wrongful death lawsuit against Andrea, which was privately settled with details kept confidential. Despite her 5-year sentence, Andrea was granted parole after serving just 22 months in June 2014. During her incarceration, her children were cared for by her parents. For those who followed the case, the story remained a source of shock and division for years. In 2015, Hemi's original conviction was overturned by the Georgia Supreme Court due to the improper admission of mental health evidence. This ruling prompted a retrial in 2016, where Hemi was again found guilty of Rusty's murder. This time, the jury rejected the argument that mental illness drove him to commit the crime. Hemi received a second life sentence without the possibility of parole. In July 2019, Hemi's defense team filed a motion seeking another trial, claiming that the admission of certain evidence violated attorney-client privilege and that Andrea's perjury conviction had unfairly influenced the outcome of his trial. The legal battle reignited painful memories for the Atlanta community, many of whom were reluctant to revisit the case. In 2024, the Georgia Supreme Court rejected the motion, affirming Hemi's conviction. He remains incarcerated at the Augusta State Medical Prison in Georgia. Meanwhile, Andrea moved to Alpharetta, Georgia, where she has kept a low profile. She now works as a private tutor, focusing on education and staying out of the public eye, striving to rebuild her life in quiet obscurity. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.